The other thing, on one day I had an opportunity to go visit another of our ecumenical accompaniment teams over in the Jordan Valley, which is on the west side of the West Bank, sorry, the east side of the West Bank. And these signs exist all over the West Bank whenever a road leads to Area A, which is where the Palestinian Authority has full control. And it says that it's illegal for Israelis to go on that road, to go into that area. They're forbidden by law to go there, and it's allegedly dangerous to their lives. Of course, I've never felt it dangerous at all. I suspected that the real reason for the signs was to prevent the Israelis from seeing what was going on. This sort of sign prevents Israelis from even going into places like Bethlehem. But the day before I arrived to visit the Jordanian Valley team, they had heard that a water pipe that had been constructed to provide water service to one of the Palestinian communities, in fact 3 of the Palestinian communities, had been cut by the Israeli soldiers. So the day after I arrived, we drove up to this Al-Hadidiyah community, and when we moved to go into it, we found that this earth barrier had been constructed, so we couldn't take our vehicle into Al-Hadidiyah. So we parked the vehicle and we walked into this community. It's a relatively small community. It's a family community headed by a sheikh. This is the sheikh of the community. They're very hospitable people, Palestinians. The first thing you do whenever you visit in a community is you sit down and have tea and coffee. You can't have a discussion with Palestinians until you've first enjoyed the hospitality of their tea or coffee, or both. And in this case, we sat down with the sheikh and through an interpreter heard a bit about the story of what had happened and what his family suffers. Now here is the community, Al-Hadidiyah, where the sheikh was, and why it's experiencing the problems it is, at least some of them, is because right behind it is an illegal Israeli settlement. And they complain, and the Palestinians get harassed. But one of the first things that Israel did when the occupation of the West Bank began in 1967 was to take full control of all water resources. So Palestinians cannot build anything related to water, pipes, cisterns, unless they get a permit from Israel. And those permits are not forthcoming as a rule. So the story here was that a Spanish non-government organization, October of 2016, had run a water pipe, something like 15 kilometers from another Palestinian community to these 3 communities, including Al-Hadidiyah. And shortly after that was built, in October, the pipe had been demolished. Israeli authorities came in with a military contractor and basically cut the pipe every few feet. And there you can see one place where the pipe is cut. So the Spanish non-government organization said, well, we'll pay for it to be reinstalled again. And when I was visiting there and they heard word that the pipe had been cut, it was in effect cut for the second time. And this is what we observed, the pipe having been cut. And that's what it looked like. And every few feet along the length of this pipe, and I walked maybe 100 meters along this pipe, every few feet along this pipe it was cut. So this community, to get water, what it was forced to do was to buy water from the Israeli water company at really exorbitant prices. And this is the length that the authorities would go to stop them from getting water in an economic way. This is a picture of lands of a settlement and indicating that what settlement was growing on their property, the illegal Israeli settlement, there was no shortage of water for Israeli settlers. They got all the water they want. So whereas Palestinians living in the West Bank would, on average, only have 70% of the recommended minimum water recommended by the World Health Organization, Israeli settlers got all the water they want. And in a community that didn't have pipe water, like Al-Hadidiyah, they were down to something like 20% of the recommended water of the World Health Organization.